All right, welcome everybody to the comic panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Talon.
And I'm Jacob.
And unfortunately, our fourth host, Shawenta, is not able to join us today, but today we are going to be talking about Jupiter's Legacy by Mark Millar.
And
Millar, if you
Frank
prefer.
Quietly.
Frank quietly did the covers. I don't think he did the interior.
Gotcha.
So yes, partially by Frank Quietly, but about
the artist is Wilfred Torres.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Wilfredo Torres.
Oh, Wilfredo. Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Yes, and also with pencils and inks by David Gianfelice. Inks by Francesco Martorino. And colors by Ive Scorsina. Letter and design by Peter Daugherty. We already mentioned Frank Quietly doing the cover and chapter illustrations.
Yeah. And the publisher is Image Comics. Mm-hmm. So
Talon,
oh yeah,
why did you choose this book?
Because there's a
We
TV
can start
show.
with that.
Yeah, there was a TV show on Netflix that came out, and I was like, I might as well. It's based on a comic book. Might as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I have finished the TV show, and so I'll have some stuff to talk about.
Is it better or worse than this comic?
I mean, in my personal opinion, I think the TV show is better, but there are some differences between the comic and the TV show which I find interesting, that perhaps if you read the comic first, you wouldn't like.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So I'll say that this book. So okay, not to jump the gun too much, but based on your question to Talon, Jake, I am getting the impression that perhaps there were things that you didn't like about this book. Maybe, and you don't have to answer that right now. But
okay.
Just keep that in your back pocket.
Yeah, I will say that I realized while reading this that I am very guilty of judging books by their covers, literally and figuratively. Literally, I don't really like Frank Quietly's art, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to read this book with Frank Quietly art. It's just like, I didn't like him in New X-Men. I didn't like him in All-Star Superman that much. So it was just like, meh. But then it turned out that the interior of the art was a different people, and I liked it a lot more. And then also, on a figurative level, I was like, another like superhero deconstruction. This is gonna be like The Boys, but it's gonna be a Mark Millar, and he has his reputation for the way he writes. And it's just like basically I had preconceived notions about what the story was going to be, and then the fact that it subverted those expectations helped me at least appreciate it more.
Gotcha.
I will say, yeah, I'm with you on the covers. I don't like the design from like the neck down, especially like on the first cover, is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's something about the faces of these characters that like is just kind of weird and off, and like maybe that's just an uncanny valley thing, and it's just like it just falls
real?
into like it's not far enough. Well, no, it's not far enough away that I can tell that it's obviously not a human face, but it's not close enough that I can tell that it's supposed to be a human face. There's somewhere in between where it just looks highly strange.
Yeah, I feel like in particular what Frank Quietly was at least going for was like statuesque on those covers.
Okay.
But so in that way successful, but also not appealing. And yeah, I think that his faces in particular, are like a hallmark of them is uncanny. I think you hit the nail on the head with that descriptor.
I don't know, because like I didn't really get that when reading All-Star Superman. Like I actually really like the art in that book, but this was, I mean, to be fair, it is just the covers. Like the moment-to-moment art in the book, I don't really have a problem with, but it's also not spectacular. But you know, it's serviceable.
Yeah,
it's fine.
That's true. Yeah, I always felt, well, yeah, we'll read All-Star Superman some other time, perhaps, on this show, but that is not what we're discussing, and so I won't go further into that.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, so, getting into the book, though, yeah, I guess, yeah, where this, like, immediately, it kind of, changed what I was expecting by being kind of like, you know, I mean, being a period piece in the first place, set in the 1950s, you know, that's not something I was expecting.
Gotcha.
And yeah, kind of still like, you know, it wasn't like the most down to earth superhero deconstruction. It still had a lot of like, you know, the fanfare kind of, I guess you could call it, and the what's the word that always gets attached to like the Adam West Batman?
Campy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh yes.
So you're saying it didn't have a campy back?
No, it did. It at least, like, I mean, I'm not saying that the story itself was campy, but elements of the genre of superhero comics that would be associated with camp, I think.
Gotcha.
Are on display in this book.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
That might be part of why I don't like it that much. But that might also just be because, like, there's just a lot of nothing that happens in this book.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Or it's like, there's no, like, and maybe it's a little reductionist for me to complain about a book not having, like, an antagonist or, like, a big bad for them to fight. But, like, I can't name any of the villains that they, like, fight off screen in this book.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not.
It's just there's a lot of personal conflict, but also I don't care about any of the characters involved.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Mark Millar, Mark Millar, he was more focused on like the personalities of the superheroes as opposed to them fighting a big bad, which is kind of more traditional. And you know, I assume that if you wanted to shake things up, right, you'd focus more on the personal as opposed to fighting a big bad.
Yeah, I think what I'll say is that I feel like he was like taking the kind of the Stan Lee advice like overboard, you know, like just like, you know, oh, just focus on like, you know, the personal problems, the person behind the masks, you know. And it's like, well, yeah, but also the fact that there's a superhero needs to come up and be like, I mean, it does come up and it is important, but it's like, I don't know, it needs to feel like a significant part of their life, not just something that they do. It's not just another, you know, thing. And I guess where it comes up is the societal expectations that are put upon them by doing this job, by volunteering for this job, or having the responsibility, I suppose, if that's what it is.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say societal expectations because one of the this is not as like right off the bat you'll notice this, but a big difference between the TV show and this comic is that the utopian in the TV show is very much like we have to uphold values. And so with that, like, the Union, so there's their superhero name or team name.
Yeah.
The Union has like, the code. And so that's not really seen in this comic.
Right, yeah, they just have a loose set of ideas in the comic. They're all like, this is probably what we're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'll also say that this comic focuses on the original 6, whereas the TV show is actually more set in present day with the next generation of superheroes.
Oh,
so
I see.
I assume that the code is and all that stuff is more later in this series.
Gotcha. Maybe created based on the mistakes of the originals.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that could make sense if they move on with that. It did look like, by setting up the teen team.
Yeah.
Is
teen
that
scene?
Teen Scene, that's right.
Yeah.
Teen Scene, because Teen Team is in Invincible. Anyway, yeah, by setting up the teen scene, and it seemed like they were going to grow up to be adult heroes and stuff, and replace the Union.
Yeah. So yeah, I will also say, like, almost immediately, the departure between this book and the show is how much they focus on Richard. So, like, the first 2 issues were about Richard Conrad, whose superhero name is Blue Bolt. In the TV show, Richard was probably... I don't remember Richard other than maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes.
Gotcha. So low screen time.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the thing that I find even more interesting. So in the comic, the issues centering around Richard focus on his sexual orientation and the fact that he's gay and having to be a superhero and uphold a standard while, feeling like, but I am not actually that standard. Right. That was not at all mentioned in the TV show. And in fact, his sexual orientation was subtext.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
I was just like, really?
I am surprised considering it's in, like, page 4 of this book. Like, yeah, that surprises me about the show.
Yeah, especially considering it's like a Netflix series. Right. So, like, they don't have to. Like, if it was Disney, I wouldn't be surprised. Or even, Marvel or DC. But, like, for a technically independent of those 2 adaptation, that is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, it's like, on one hand, it is interesting. On the other hand, like, I feel like closeted gay public figure in the 1950s is, like, very tired. At least kind of to me.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's like, to me though, it's like, what if you're going to change it, you need to exchange it, Like, I feel like just like on a purely like representation, like, because they didn't really change it, they just decided not to focus on it. It's like Talon said, it was subtext, and that leaves room for it to be, oh, well, he might be straight, There's ambiguity, and I think that's what I don't like, is that it's like they're not doing anything different, but they're also making it ambiguous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, basically you can be tired of the trope, perhaps, but, like, they didn't change the trope either. They just made it worse.
I guess, yeah, I am coming more from just, like, only having read the comic. So I can't really speak to the show.
That's a good point.
Like, it's just like the whole arc of the first 2 issues is like such a tired, like, this takes place in the 1950s trope where it's like, oh, this character has a secret. Who figured it out? Oh, it's Hoover. How are we gonna get rid of him? Hoover wants to know everybody's secret identity. And then it's, oh, how do we get out of it? Oh, we just blackmail Hoover.
Yeah, who is also
like,
a positive
I
gay
feel
man.
like I've seen that so many times.
With Hoover?
Not specifically Hoover, I'm sure.
Well,
but...
just like with like the same, there's the stories of Hoover being a crossdresser or gay or both, which would be fine. But also, he's just like a garbage person because he's part of the reason we're in the weird, like authoritative, autocratic. That's what I meant to say. Autocratic state that we're in.
Okay. Yeah, I actually didn't know that he had I don't know what to say, that kind of background. I didn't know that there was rumors of him cross-dressing or anything else that wasn't considered specifically straight. Mm-hmm. I guess.
Yeah. I feel like I heard about it somewhere.
Yeah. I guess once you mentioned it, this book didn't drag up the memories, but once you said that, I was like, oh, I guess I did hear about that somewhere, but like
So we are assuming this is Herbert Hoover.
Yeah, or okay. No. Herbert Hoover was
J. Edgar.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of someone.
Director of the FBI.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're not talking about Herbert Hoover, the former president. No, that's
okay. Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Because I thought they said Hoover, and the only Hoover I know is Herbert, and so.
Yeah. No. J. Edgar Hoover, partially responsible, depending on who you listen to the death of multiple black civil rights leaders.
Ah, that guy. Okay.
Also, maybe JFK, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, gotcha. Yeah, trash human though. Mm-hmm. We can.
But yeah, just like that. Comes and goes in this comic for 2 issues, where it's like I'm going to really blackmail this guy, and to kind of circumvent it. Blue Bolt, because I'm never going to remember his real name. He has this, like, big, dramatic breakdown. I thought which is also a problem I had in this book, where I thought they were kind of invincible and, like, strong, but also he could just, like, slit his wrists with a razor. It's not even, like, a special razor, which seems like if he's going to be, like, punched out of the sky...
Yeah.
And, like, just kind of walk it off. It'd be weird if you could just, like, cut yourself shaving.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Mm-hmm. Not something that I'd normally consider, I don't think. I'll be Definitely honest. Not. I didn't think about that.
But also, yeah, tries to kill himself to not be
Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
So... J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes.
J. Edgar, yeah.
So Richard is at a party, and there's this secret agent that takes pictures of him being with another dude.
Mm-hmm. And it was the butler.
It was, yes. And so Edgar Hoover found out and then tried to blackmail Richard into revealing the secret identities of his team. Mm-hmm. That leads him to say, well, there's only one solution. Kill myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, after lots of considering.
Yeah.
Doesn't immediately go down that route, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but basically he gets found by a friend or something. I can't remember who finds him exactly.
Lady Liberty.
That's what I thought.
Or Grace.
One of his teammates, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the hospital and they accept him for who he is, and one of his teammates also blackmails J. Edgar Hoover, and then it's over. That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Talon.
Oh no, you go.
Okay, so part of my problem with the end of this is like the team does accept him, and that's nice, but isn't it kind of on the, they accept him on the condition that, like, he doesn't come out. Right? Or is that kind of, like, more implicit? They don't, like, come out and say that?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. It sounded more implicit to me, but not even implicit.
Yeah, I would say implicit, or it's ambiguous rather, actually. They don't say it, but they don't not say it either. It's up to interpretation, but I think that's definitely a valid interpretation that they, this will just remain between us, the team, and you're kind of right to be in the closet.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that, like, obviously, Blue Bolt shouldn't be outed, outside of his will. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, it's weird that, like, the condition of you, like, being allowed to be a hero saving the world is dependent on you with upholding this certain set of values, kind of set up / not set up, but enforced by Utopian to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
So, where, like, meanwhile, the entire team seems to be falling apart around him this entire book. And it's like, man, it's really easy for you, Utopian, to be saying everybody just hold the line, hold on to the values, while you're just, like, fine the whole time.
Jake, that's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly the TV show there. That is very similar to what happened in the TV show.
Just more explicitly,
interesting.
I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But, okay, I will push back on that, Jake, in that when Blue Bolt comes back to headquarters, the Utopian, he asked the Utopian, do you have anything to talk about? Or, well, nothing you want me to talk about? And then the Utopian says, no, is there something you want to tell us? And he's like, not especially. So, to me, that's more like, I don't care. Like, you do you. It doesn't matter to me. Not a, if you're okay, like, being here.
The guy with the weird mustache and the domino mask.
Utopian's
him talking
brother.
to... Yes. Yeah, him talking to not Batman. And there's like, I can't believe I'm the only person who had a problem with having a gay person on the team.
Mm-hmm.
That implies to me that, like, the whole team had a conference about whether or not they were going to, like, keep Blue Bolt on the team. Or maybe not a conference, maybe it was a little more informal, but they at least talked about it. And so, like, them after the fact, now that Blue Bolt is back, and being like, I don't have a problem if you don't have a problem, but also, if we decided we had a problem with it, we would be having this conversation. That's what that tells me.
Okay. So basically, it's like, if we did have a problem with it, then we would have something to talk to you about, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if that's, like, implicit necessarily, because that to me is like a whole different situation. If they did have a problem with it versus they're okay with it as long as he doesn't tell them about it. Like, to me, those are two different situations.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna keep with what I was saying before, that it's ambiguous. So it's like, it really is up to interpretation, which way it goes. I don't think that there's a right answer on this one.
Gotcha.
I guess maybe I'm going for the worst case scenario, but that is because outside of the Utopian and the Lady Liberty, all the people on this team seem like they're the worst, like, all the time.
I'll give you that.
Except for Blue Bolt, actually, because he's just, like, a good neurosurgeon and gay in a time where it's not okay to be gay.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, man, everybody else, well, the other two,
yeah, I guess
3 are, like, garbage.
2 or 3.
Yeah. Man, I guess that's only 50%, which is, like, still like a failing grade, but like, I don't know. It's better than it seems like. It seems that's like true. There's more garbage people than good people, though.
But to be fair, like, these are the only 6 superheroes in the world. I mean, I guess aside from the teen scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was unclear on that too, because, like, they just kind of say, "Oh, these 6 people went to an island, got powers, whatever.
I didn't
All
even
right,
get
sure. Don't know how, but well, no, it says like in the beginning, 6 people went to an island, got powers. I think that's like one of the first boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, regardless,
Yep.
it's like, but then they introduced like this weird waitress might have psychic powers a little bit, and then there's this whole other team of like maybe superheroes.
Wait,
because one of them definitely can fly, unless that was when they're doing like the rescue drills over the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So like, unless that person who was flying around was one of the 6. Then
I don't think so.
there are at least like some powers scattered around.
Right.
Yeah, and also I'm just gonna say that the waitress lady did not have powers.
No,
she pulled a rope and tripped a guy.
That's true. Yeah.
Wait, no. Wait, what'd you say?
She pulled a rope and tripped a guy. Like when she
okay.
became the sidekick character.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
not what I thought you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next we get I guess 2 issues focusing on the Flare. What's his actual name? I forgot.
I don't know. But yeah, basically, he's like he's cleaning up like a mess for the a marionette themed villain. I mean, I think his name is the Marionette, but yeah, just a bunch of giant sized puppets, basically.
No, his name's the Puppeteer.
Oh, the Puppeteer.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I will say, so the first thing that I noticed about Fitz was like the difference between the TV show and the comic is that, they made Fitz black in the TV show. I was like, okay.
Okay, yeah, that's...
But I don't need any more of that.
It doesn't... I don't think it changes much for me.
But I will say, like, I don't necessarily... So, like, the TV show is obviously set more in the present, whereas this is the past.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's... Since we're pretty firmly focusing on this, but Jake and I haven't watched it yet. So it focuses more on the teen scene as adults in the present, and so
I don't think they were. I don't know if they had the name of teen scene.
Well, sure, yeah, but the implication.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then were the Union, the original Union, still active in the 1950s, or did they jump that up to like the 1980s or something?
No, they actually were active in the 1920s.
Oh.
And still active in the current day.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's something they changed or not, but basically they're immortal.
Well, yeah. So I assume since they went to college together, they probably I don't think the college was that popular in the 1920s.
Well, no, they were this age in the 1920s.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean, though. I don't think that the comic book would reveal that they were active in the 1920s. I thought that's what you were implying earlier.
No, I'm saying that in the 1920s they were all adults, like out of college or whatever.
Right.
And that's when they got their powers, and that's when they became active.
Okay.
And so they were active all through from the 1920s to now.
Yeah. So essentially 100 years.
Yeah.
Over 100 years old because they were adults.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, so I will say, like...
Man, that makes it even actually kind of worse, sorry, that character was race swapped to being black, because it just seems a little bit unlikely that all of the white heroes born before the 1900s would just go to an island with... I don't know, maybe they were particularly progressive.
I would probably say that's probably what they were going with, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. You gotta have somebody to crew the boat, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know who was on that ship.
It was another black guy, but it was not Fitz.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah, so what I was saying before was that I don't know. So just by looking at the volume covers, it seems like volume 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
is more when they get into the present day.
Gotcha. So this kind of almost has like an American Vampire feel. It's like going through the decades a little bit.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't necessarily know if Fitz in the comic is similar in certain ways to the TV show. Like I don't know if it's just that they took those elements from the comic past where we read. You know what I mean?
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's true. If there are more people with superpowers, they could have gotten a new... Oh, what do they call him? The...
Union?
Flare?
The Union?
No, they could have gotten a new Flare, because at the
yes.
end-ish, close to this, again, even though they're, I thought, supposed to be kind of invincible, this Flare gets paralyzed, which is rough.
Yeah.
But it's also... I don't know how to feel about that, because, like, he is garbage, because he does leave his wife and 2 kids.
3, I think.
Some amount of kids.
Yeah.
For a 19-year-old, I'm gonna say, walking midlife crisis.
Well, he's a midlife crisis.
Well, yeah, but you know how, like, some people buy a car, or,
right.
you know, they, like, really take up woodworking?
Yeah.
The Flare had an affair.
Right, yeah.
So,
a Flare affair.
Yeah. Walking personification of of a midlife crisis.
Okay, so yeah, basically, like, he saves this girl, and she's like, you know, I always wanted to be a superhero, and then Fitz was like, oh, I'm sure you'd be a great superhero. I was like, you're not thinking clearly right now. I can just see it right now.
Yeah. Also, so like once he leaves his wife for this girl, his oldest son like gets very angry and like kind of on a dime is just all like, I'm gonna kill my father when I grow up.
Yeah. and like also too, like, when, spoiler alert, they get back together. And he's like, "Oh yeah, cool, Dad's back."
Yeah, so no, that was like I mean, obviously, like, he hugs his dad in the hospital bed or whatever, but also I'm like, do you still want to kill him? Or
right.
Like, like, what's the deal? Are you?
It's I don't know. There are, I wouldn't say issues with that scene where, like, it's Utopian and not Batman go and talk to the kid. It's like, hey, son, I hear life's getting rough. How you doing? It's like see how the kids are doing. And so then, implied that the kid has powers, because he throws that rock up and hits the plane a little bit. But then, like, I don't think Utopian and not Batman ever sit down and are like, hey, this kid has issues.
No. The closest thing we get is...
Like, are we gonna do anything about that? Nah.
No.
And honestly, like, the 1950s, the choices were like, you know, lobotomize him or
send him to the army.
Yeah. Or to the army. Yeah, right. The newest super soldier. Good thinking, Jake.
Yeah, so the woman that he saves is April, I forgot her name. April Kelly. Yeah. And she calls herself Miracle Girl. And also too, like, when I was reading that, I didn't realize until he came home that day with his wife that he was married. So I was like, oh, you're okay, you're making out with somebody you just saved, I guess. But then there's an extra level of, oh.
Yeah, just very gross.
And so, yeah, basically he tells his team and they're like, he tells them that she wants to join, and they're like, whoa, no, she cannot join. Okay, she's 19, she doesn't have any powers. Like, what the heck? And tells her to break up with her.
Yeah.
And he does.
Which is like a reasonable response, but also like none of them do anything to enforce that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. But he does do it. Mm-hmm. But then this bartender, I hate this bartender.
Yeah, what a pivotal character. Just like the bartender, like really changed the plot there.
He was just like, man, so you're teaching so he was like, we're staying together for the kids. And he's like, oh, that's an interesting lesson you're teaching your kids, like being in something that makes you miserable. Sure. Like, that's not the point.
I don't, to be fair, I don't want to be a pessimist all the time, but that kind of is life.
Yeah, well, I mean...
You just have to do a bunch of things that you don't like.
Right.
Occasionally being allowed to do things you do like until you die. And that's life.
Yep.
I mean, okay, so here's what I'll say on that scene is that, sure, you can teach your kid the lesson that, you know, you shouldn't stay in a situation that you aren't happy in. But, like, you know, basically, so they pose these two extremes, actually, because, what's his name? The Flare, is saying... I learned the lesson from my father who walked out on me and my mom that, you know, basically you don't just leave when you have a problem.
Right.
You know, and then the bartender is all like, but you're miserable. You know, it's like these two extremes. And I'm like, couldn't you have met them in the middle a little bit and tried to make things either work with your wife or at least have an amicable split where you understand you're both unhappy? And, like, you know, let the kids, you know, understand, like, all the things that you're supposed to do in a divorce, basically. Like, you know, like, divorce can be healthy, but you don't just, like, leave suddenly and marry, like, you know, a 19-year-old.
It's interesting, the framing of, like, the two options, because, like, he does make himself, like, try to choose between happiness and despair, at least in his mind. But, like, it's weirdly immature for this character who is, like, supposed to be in his 40s, but I guess, like, you know, like we said, it's kind of a midlife crisis. Like, he's choosing between, like, the relationship that he's established, and, like, he presumably had the same feelings that he has for this 19-year-old. Like, he had those feelings once for her. And so, like, but does it make the connection that, like, even if he chooses, like, the happy choice now, he's gonna run into the same problems that he has in his life now, because he hasn't changed at all. Just like some of the circumstances he's in does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, too, like, when he was in the hospital... Okay, so basically, he got into the hospital because there was an invasion of... like evil versions of these characters.
Also, I gotta say, love evil versions of heroes, and they just like threw that in the toilet. There was like one scene, and then they were all like, "Oh, and that's done. We took care of it." Like, I mean, just like Jake was saying, like, you know, you can't name any of the villains that appear. And it's like I thought they were gonna do something where it was like in this alternate reality. The Flare, like, you know, stayed with his wife, or, you know, or maybe he chose the same thing. He you know, what's her name? The 19-year-old, you know, he left it. Yeah, he left his wife for April, but you know, this reality, he can see where that led him. You know, like it's more of a progressed future timeline kind of thing.
No.
But no, they didn't do that at all.
It was he tried to stop the ship and it crushed him.
Yeah. He got crushed by a spaceship.
He was like, nah, I don't need any help. I got this. So he ended up in the hospital.
It's like... Because this is after what might be, like, the weirdest scene in the book, where, like, April and Flare are at this party with... Is that actually Liberace? Or is that just,
I think it's supposed to be actual Liberace.
Okay, so maybe this will show how uninformed I am. But wasn't Liberace gay?
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't know about J. Edgar Hoover, so apparently
And I don't
still
even
a lot
know
of us.
Liberace. I just know the name.
He's a famous pianist.
Yep, didn't know
But
that.
at least,
I
like-
would have assumed a wrestler.
Which, like, it's actually funny you mentioned that because I think Liberace had a commentating role in one of the first couple WrestleManias.
Oh, wow.
So
Interesting.
that connection is technically there, but he wasn't actually a wrestler.
I thought that Talon was just mixing up the words luchador and Liberace. So
That could be it.
That is possible. That could be where the connection was made. But I will give you the benefit of the doubt for one of those early WrestleManias. But anyways, yeah, it's just like Liberace is just like weirdly, like only barely maybe hitting on April, because it's like, I feel like that happened a lot in like the 50s going into the 60s. Like, you know, whoever the host of the party was, it was like this super charismatic dude that just like talks a bunch of like weird high concept, like drug addled language, like
I mean,
at the party. And like, if you're into it, you get to stay. And if you don't, you know, you just find somewhere else to go. But like, Flair takes it super personally and like has to fly away, which just like shows how deeply insecure and immature he is.
Well, to be
But
fair,
like at the same time, like, why is it
when you leave your
Liberace?
wife-
Why is the famous pianist here?
Good question.
And it's the 1950s. They gotta add that like elements of like, yes, we are in the 1950s.
Actually, I think this is the 1960s now. I think by the next section, you know.
Might have been 1960, right?
But anyway, yeah. Also, I thought that the context here was that he was specifically preaching Scientology. Am I just totally wrong about that?
No, he was Satanism.
It
Satan.
does sound
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
It's Satanism.
You're
I think.
right. It is Satanism, though.
I don't know, but there is a Scientology reference, I think, or at least there's a sideways one in the first 2 issues where they're talking about like ways to get away from like having to come out. It's like you can, you know, find a wife, leave, or, you know, I know this guy who, you know, who knows people in Hollywood, so we'll get it figured out. And that's supposed to be like the sideways Scientology reference.
Yeah. I gotcha. I mixed those 2 interactions up in my head, so that's where I was thinking of it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely a pretty weird interaction, but I think that you got what you were supposed to get from it, which is how immature and self-conscious the Flair is.
Yeah.
Man, his costume doesn't even make an F. It's a C. Why is that?
What? No. That's like a light going.
Well, yeah, but it looks like a C. I'm just saying it's a poor design.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't see the C. I see it now.
Yeah.
Sorry, too many.
I'm just saying his logo needs work.
Gotcha. But yeah, so he's in the hospital, and like, I'm like, okay, maybe I've seen this too many times, but like, duh, they look to April and they're like, I guess you have to take care of him now, and she's like, I can barely take care of myself. I mean,
yeah, what like, a cop out too. Like, she's like,
no, duh.
Like, that is like peak.
I don't know, but
like, you know, baby daddy. You know, like, like, I can't take care of a baby. I can't take care of my husband that just that will now need help all his life.
Yeah. But then they say, "Oh, it's not your fault." I think.
I mean, it isn't her fault for sure. If that's, I can't remember who said that, but
that would have been Lady Liberty.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I agree with that. I'm like, I could see where you're coming from by saying that.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's this weird area where like, she's an adult and she made all of the decisions, but at the
Mhm.
same time, the Flair was definitely like, grooming her.
I wouldn't say I don't think it would be like that because like I don't know like I look at it as like it was mutual consent. You know what I mean?
I mean, okay, yeah. I don't think that there was consent issues necessarily, but I would say that, like, he was like, yeah, I can make your dreams come true. You can join the union and we can be a happy family together. And then it's like, you know,
It's like, everybody's having good times, and it's easy to like keep saying yes to like keep having fun when it's all good times. But then, something
then-
always happens to
and then
make
they
it not
mention-
good times anymore.
And then they mention worshiping Lucifer, and you're like, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. She seemed pretty into it. She was down.
Yeah.
Or at least,
Yeah.
like, maybe she wasn't, but, like, she was at least at the party, I guess. I don't know.
So there was a scene where he was like, I don't want some younger dude swooping in and taking you away. And she was like, you know how insulting that is? And I was like, you're looking at someone who did the exact same thing. What are you talking about?
It's the inability to look within and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, wait, but that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the end, his wife comes back and she's like, I still love you. And he's like, man, I was stupid. Like, okay. So this to me, I feel like he gave a reason that was not at all established. He was like, I was afraid of getting older. I'm like, where did you say that?
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like another cop-out, actually. It's just all like, ooh, I need somebody to take care of me, and my fiance just ditched. I'm sorry? I was getting old?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it for me, like, it loops back to, like, just, walking midlife crisis. But I can see how, like, maybe I'm just, like, projecting it backwards. You guys are just kind of, like, reading it there, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's, I guess, a reason, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do agree that,
yeah,
I guess...
it does seem like a cop-out.
Yeah, it is partially, like, the subtext is that, he is getting older. He just had another kid, with his wife, and it's keeping him up at night, all of that stuff. Basically he is at the peak of adulthood, in terms of, society's expectations once again. He has a family, he has at least 3 kids.
Yeah.
And 2.5 kids, the exact average.
Yes.
Yeah, so, basically, and he's feeling like, he can't be himself or whatever that means. He didn't get to grow up all the way,
I mean, you're 40 and I don't know, man. I'm like, that's a little late.
It's unfortunately a prevalent problem, even today. But anyway, not to get onto the problems of society in the present day. Moving on to our fourth kind of arc here, or third arc, sorry, not fourth.
I will say, like, the cover for this chapter, I think, is probably the best one.
Oh yeah,
Chapter 5.
Chapter 5, yeah. That I actually agree with that. I was like, oh, that's one that I don't really mind.
Yeah, but so it's all six of them flying. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. It's like they just like casually mention like, yes, these guys have powers. And it's like they don't take the time to explain what those powers are.
Yeah, no.
And that's especially prevalent with these last 2 issues. It's like, or actually more like 6.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what powers do you have? I mean, yeah, you fly and strong, I guess, but like that's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with Blue Bolt, he's like, yeah, I got my iron rod or something, and he's our power rod, I think.
Power rod, yeah.
And I'm like, what does it do?
uh,
What does it do?
Such a dumb name. All the names in this are like actively, well, not actively the worst. They're just like bad.
Mm-hmm. I will say I like the
Power
Utopian.
Rod.
Yeah.
Utopian's the best one. Easily the best one.
Gotcha.
But like all of the other ones are bad.
Yeah. Also, if they all got their powers like from in the same instance on an island, like then what's not Batman's deal? Does he even have powers, or was he just the unlucky one that didn't get powers and he was like, well, I guess I'm still gonna be a superhero?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even in
Well, I think he still flies around and is strong. Like the only reason I call him not Batman is because he has a butler and is like a business owner, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely see him being like Batman, but not Batman. And I guess I didn't realize that he flew around. I just didn't really take note of that until I had the question.
I will say it was interesting that even in the TV show, they said they were talking about this guy, not Batman, who's okay. So not Batman. Secret identity is oh man, I had it. But his superhero identity is Sky Fox, which again is another thing they mentioned once and then don't explain it.
Yeah.
But
Another
I can't remember his name off the top. Oh, George Hutchins. There we go.
Rhymes with Sly Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he can fly and.
Oh, gotcha. Foxy, I could see that. Yeah. But they in the TV show they mentioned that man, poor George has to wear the helmet, and they don't even explain that. And so I'm like, is the helmet similar to the power rod, or does the power rod give Blue Bolt his powers? I don't know. Why does he have it?
Yeah, man, I wonder why this show got canceled on Netflix.
No. I am sticking with the show is a lot better than the comic.
I mean, still though. Anyway, yeah, that's a good question.
Also, okay, how do you feel about so the Utopian secret identity is Sheldon, and his brother is Walter.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the comic, George and Walter argue a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Sheldon's response of like, I'm used to it? Like, because if my friend was picking on my brother the way that George was picking on Walter, that was not be my response. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't just be like, yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Thin mustache dude seems like he's just the right kind of person to like actively antagonize, because you'll always get a rise out of him. And so like if you're Thin Mustache's brother, then like you kind of have to accept it, because if they're all about 40 and they're still doing this, they are never going to change. It doesn't matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, I guess, it's like basically kind of like how that, especially like 1950s, 1960s, there's like an accepted amount of bullying that, is never acceptable, but it's what is accepted for the time, and it's all like, but it's funny, we all have fun, don't we? And it's like, but the mustache guy who, is kind of like, at least partially terrible for that one comment, is like, having, self-doubt issues or whatever in his own head.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Also, they do kind of, like, skate in there at the very end, even though it might be a cop-out. Like, the possibility that he is, like, apparently he has psychic powers, and
Yes.
he may have psychically stolen Night Fox's Fly Fox's? Not Batman's.
Sky Fox.
Sky Fox.
Yeah.
Sky Fox. Sky Fox's
Yes.
fiance or longtime girlfriend.
No.
Yeah.
And then they like just kind of like laugh it off, where it's like, he would never, unless he did.
Yeah. I mean,
And then it's like the end of the issue, so we don't talk about it, I guess.
No one like, said that about me, and I'm like, well, you didn't give him an answer
Right.
either.
No, Utopian would have definitely been like, oh, I guess he didn't do it. Utopian definitely would have been like, I guess he said no.
Yeah, that's such an evasive answer.
Yeah. I mean, of course, he also, like, it's established that Utopian has, like, Superman hearing, and I'm all like, hear his heartbeat. Is he lying? Like, just give us an answer.
Gotcha. So basically, Sky Fox is portrayed as this guy who's always drinking and has a lot of affairs until he meets this one girl whose name is Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
And the papers were all raving about him. Like, all the girls liked him, and the papers were all like, he met somebody, and now he's down to earth. They named Sunny the girl who tamed Sky Fox. Like, and
yeah, like it's if Bruce Wayne suddenly found like somebody to settle down with, other than like all the times he's tried to settle down with different people, but I guess it almost worked.
Yeah, all the times that he's tried to settle down with criminals and assassins. The papers.
Sometimes he doesn't know they're criminals and assassins.
Yes, that makes it better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm just like, I don't see myself ever being like, man, what is this celebrity? Who is this celebrity dating? Like, so it's weird to me to be
I don't know. Some people are like that though. Like that's, I mean, we can say we all don't like think it, and I'm pretty sure like between the three of us that's true. But like, if that were true universally, there wouldn't be like a People magazine or a Vogue magazine or a bunch of different celebrity gossip rags all talking about who's getting married and who's getting divorced all the time.
Right. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that I didn't get the hype or like the all like, oh my gosh,
It's like it's like Brad Pitt. You're old enough to remember. Do you remember when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie like were getting married?
I mean, I know that
like,
they were.
That is like the kind of buzz. Like, what do you mean, Talon?
No,
like not going to like the grocery store, seeing all the magazines talking about all the drama.
What about the Royals?
Oh, you mean like recently with?
Well, not recently, but the ones that got married. Oh, that stuff.
With like William and what's
Kate,
her name? Meghan. Or are you thinking
Harry and Meghan?
Meghan was the other one.
Yeah. Meghan Markle.
No, I'm not talking about the most recent stuff.
Okay, that's the one I would know.
Okay.
Or at least not.
But yeah, people care about it.
Yeah.
And it's
again
somewhat popular to care about it.
I just don't get it. When that whole thing was going on, literally, like, so when I was working, like, they were just like talking about it. Talking about the wedding. I'm just like, and they were like, yeah, let's watch the wedding. I'm like, these are people from Europe, not America. Why do you care? I just don't get it.
Famous to be famous. Why would you watch the Kardashians?
I mean, I don't.
People do for some reason.
Yeah, so
I
guess
I don't know.
I don't blame you for not being swept up in this fictional hype, especially because it's just to show off. Other people are hype about it in this fictional world, but it's something that happens in the real world, so it's definitely plausible in this fictional world.
Yeah.
Especially back then, it's not like you could like pop on TV. You gotta like listen to radio, or
yeah.
I don't even know what you did in the city. Like, at least if you were a farmer, you just, like, farmed. But, like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Mm, yeah. I will say, so...
Wait for the milkman to come by?
Yeah. You
know.
watched WandaVision. You know what it's like.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that's how we introduce the next generation to the 1950s. Just have them watch WandaVision.
Yeah. Episode 1. That's all you need to know.
Okay. I will say, something that the TV show did, like, explicitly was showing the 99 eggs that Cuthbert, his butler, makes for him.
Oh, man, that did not make sense to me, and now, like, I'm looking at the art, and I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. I just, read the words, kind of, and I was like, huh? And
Gotcha.
Now I understand.
Mm.
He made 99 eggs for this man,
Yes.
and he's going to eat 1. What a waste of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
I love eggs.
I don't honestly know what he did with the other 98.
Probably threw them away. He threw them away. Let's be honest. They're rich. They're not going to give them to a shelter or something.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this girl Sunny was much like April in that saved her from some. Well, no, actually no. He was just there.
Yeah,
she was just
yeah.
there.
It's very much like that other superhero deconstruction story we read.
Irredeemable.
Irredeemable.
Yeah.
Yes, available on Spotify this week.
Yes.
It's a good plug.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just all like, she was just there, he was there, and then suddenly they're together, except for not with Irredeemable is really creepy. He basically was like, I'll be there, wink, when she's there, wink, and then this one was actually
I don't know. In this, it's an actual, it's like a real meet cute.
A real meet cute.
It's kind of fun.
I just find that term funny.
It's a funny word. I get you. Anyway. But yeah.
Okay, so this to me is just weird. This is where bullying goes too far, I think.
Yeah, definitely. When you hide a person's home in Africa. It's when you hide their home in Africa.
And it was at that point, after that, Sheldon was still I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
He hid his home.
I mean, yeah, I do agree that is the most egregious example in this book of hardcore bullying, but also is the funniest moment because it's not real people. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's the haha, I hid your lunch in the trash can, but your entire house on another continent. It's just
But also, Sky Fox, I guess, has telekinesis. I'll just, throw that in there.
Is that?
Well, no, there are those, 2 other people who are there with him who,
okay.
I don't know if we see anywhere else.
They were the people
that are just, helping him do it.
I think these 2 were the people doing the rescue drills in the previous
Oh, okay. Which, I guess that's probably part of what the teen scene is good for. If you just need more people to help you with a prank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but then then that so there it's a little ambiguous what we said before about whether or not Walter used his powers to hijack Sonny's brain because. In her words, this is at this part, when he hides his apartment somewhere else, it's at this part where we see Sonny's like, maybe George isn't the guy that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be, it could not be, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely was more like,
I mean, and that
I
is
don't
something
think he
that, at least in this part, is done well. That it is, like, somewhat ambiguous, where it's like, well, this is, like, a possibility, now that you've told us what this person's powers are,
Right.
and he would have a reason to make her leave.
Mhm.
But, and also, like, it'd be one thing, like, if she just left, but it's also that she leaves, Skyfox, and then gets with Weird Mustache.
Yeah. On the proposal night, I might add.
Yeah. Yep. George proposed to her, and she's like,
Which
nah.
it's, like...
Nah.
Yeah.
Also, bad proposal, I'm gonna say.
Really?
Like,
Wait, what?
blowing up the moon to make it ask, will you marry me? Bad proposal.
Also, too, like, would you even be able to see that? Like, just think in real life. But, okay, you know what? This is a conflict. Never mind.
Yeah.
Like, you... Maybe? I don't know. Like, because you can see, like, craters on the moon.
Yeah,
So,
basically, it would...
if you were able to make, like, new craters, then sure. But also...
It'd take a lot of gender reveal bombs.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
Also, so what I thought was interesting, so the Utopian is, like, talking to his girlfriend, I guess?
Or wife. Girlfriend, wife, somebody.
Yeah. And talking about what George was doing. And I just thought it was interesting because in the TV show, he's married to Lady Liberty. So I was
okay.
That's a difference.
Yeah.
Although, then again, this is the 1960s, so they could have been married after that.
Right, yeah, maybe. Yeah, if they really are, like, these, like, non-aging kind of immortal people, then maybe, like, they have to group up, otherwise everybody dies.
No, that could be it. Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Also, just like a small last tidbit on that scene. Yeah, public proposals like that. You know, like skywriting or like on the baseball Megatron or whatever.
No.
Bad.
I don't know if people actually.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line, like, if you've talked about it before, and you're, like, and you've, like, talked about, like, what kind of proposal that, like, you would like to have, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But don't have it as a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Never a surprise.
No, see, my plan was just to say, I'm thinking about, proposing to you on the Jumbotron. Yeah, how'd you like that? It's like, no. It's like, well, I was just joking. And then actually do it.
You can softball a little bit, like, hey, what if you just, like, found a wedding ring on your, like, on your daughter's dog or something at the baseball stadium. And it's like, yeah, you can softball a little bit and see, like, how they feel. But, this is not, disclaimer, not a wedding advice show.
No wedding advice.
So,
But I will say, like, I don't know if people do this in, like, real life, just, like, public proposals, but that always weirds me out. I'm just like, nah.
It's weird.
Nah, let's
especially
let's just, like, go to
in a completely, like, otherwise innocuous space, especially. That's when it's weird. Like, when it's just a busy place, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd just be like, no, this is just a you and me thing. Like, why would I want people watching?
Yeah, I mean, some people want, like, a photographer and stuff to capture the moment, So like, I'm just
Gotcha.
Candid photos.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Also, so going back to the story, Walter, I think his superhero identity is Brainwave, something like that. But also, that's just because it was said in the TV show. It is never mentioned in this comic.
No. They don't care about their superhero identity.
They really bury the lead on that. Because that would, like, help us in establishing, before they just, like, come out and say it, like, hey, maybe this person might have manipulated the girl to end up with him. And, like, it does kind of make sense because it's like, it seems to me like Mustache Guy seems to think he's like he's a super nice guy and like can't understand what a girl like not April because that's the 19-year-old
Sunny.
Like what Sunny is doing with somebody like Sky Fox, and so like that does make it seem more believable that he would manipulate. It's like, oh, she doesn't know what she's missing, so I'll show her by influencing her mind to end up with me.
I will say, like, I find it highly implausible that she would be like, the guy picking on you, I don't like, but now I like you, the guy who's picked on.
Yeah, like, I mean, it does, like, you can almost believe it in, like, kind of, like, a Peter Parker way, like, where Liz Allen is like, Flash, stop being so mean to Peter. I'm gonna like him now, kind of thing. But also, given the, like, literal situation, I'm like, yeah, I think that if she really didn't like that, she'd just distance herself from the whole situation, not just be on the other guy's side.
Yeah.
Especially because they didn't establish them having any prior non-romantic relationship. You know, like, I think that is the biggest clue that he did influence her mind, is that she's just at his apartment to tell him about how bad the proposal was and how it's not what he or what she wanted or whatever. You know, it's like, wait, how do you even know where his house is? And like, you know, like, and why are you crying to him? Like, you don't have any other friends? Like,
that's a good point. I did not catch all that. All right.
Yeah. Also, don't trust a lot of people with mustaches, especially like weird thin French ones.
And he hasn't even been to France. He just watched a movie a lot.
Oh yeah, that wasn't the comic.
I don't know. Characters with bad mustaches don't like. Even some characters with good mustaches you can't trust.
Yeah.
Looking at you on Omni-Man.
Oh man. Oof.
Yeah.
Really can't trust him.
Yeah. So this page is probably the biggest indication that it's not Batman. That Sky Fox is not Batman.
Yeah, the not Batcave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gotta say, this is at the beginning of the book, but I did like the little bit where it was all like, we can't keep taking souvenirs. This place is gonna be filled up. So it's like, oh yeah, we're doing, you know, I mean, the Justice League do like kind of like be like, oh yeah, we have like underground basements where we just keep all of this stuff, you know, like it's more like an evidence locker than a souvenir kind of thing. But yeah, it's just kind of silly though, and I like that line. But yeah, the not bad cave.
But man, Walter is like, or like Sonny's like, so like, you know, are you really sure about this? Like, you know, what is your team gonna say? He's like, it's fine, I don't care. I'm like, Walter, you're such an idiot.
Yeah.
If you don't think, okay, he teleports or he sends your house to Africa just to mess with you.
Yeah, just because he thinks it's funny. Like, he thinks we're both having fun here.
Right. If you think he's going to go any softer on you because you stole his woman, like that, you are not thinking clearly.
No, but like I do like the concept where it's like they aren't like going out and dating in real life. Like, it's all in like a weird, like Inception style mindscape, like a constructed city. Like, that's like kind of cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I wish they'd done a little more with that.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, oh, sorry. Were you still saying?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the point of the mindscape, I feel like that says to me even more that this is like, you know, the relationship is all in his head, you know? Like, it's like, literally, he's doing this mindscape thing, and it's like he's creating it with his powers, you know?
Gotcha.
But yeah. Did you have more to say about it, though, Jake?
No, well, just because, like, I wish they'd done more because, like, it gets interrupted when Sky Fox. I keep wanting to say Night Fox, and I know that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Sky Fox, like, walks in and attacks him, and this is also where it, like, also supplants, like, not Batman, because, like, shrugs off Blue Bolt, and then it's like, oh yeah, I built special earplugs to be resistant to your telekinetic attacks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, I guess you're prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm. No, he was like, nah, sooner or later, me and Walter are gonna have a fight.
At some point we will have to fight. Yeah, you're right. It's less like, oh man, what if Superman turns evil? And it's like, okay, at some point I'm gonna cross a line. And I'm gonna have to fight this guy. So I better be prepared.
He wouldn't even say it like that. He would say, one day Walter's gonna get in his feelings and he's gonna attack me.
Yeah. Gosh. But yeah, basically then, they do fight, and then the Utopian, like, stops them, and he's all like, he takes Walter's side, essentially, and then Skyfox just leaves. He's all like, I'm gone. Disappeared.
Off the face of the earth.
Just like Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
In real France.
Oh, yes, okay. Take it a little bit.
Yeah, it's okay. But Skyfox doesn't go to real France. He goes to Kentucky, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so he leaves his mansion and he's like, yeah, it's yours. My will, or like, yeah, I leave the mansion to you, the Union, you know, and I give Cuthbert, like, an inheritance. I forgot what it was.
Or a pension. Yeah, him and his wife get a pension. A big pension.
Yeah.
And then, Mustache Walter gets married to Sunny.
Apparently.
And then they build a super prison that Sky Fox had been working on.
Yeah. I will say the Utopian looked a little suspicious when they got married. He was like,
Yeah. Definitely. Just kind of thinking about it. And then
I don't know. It's I guess we don't get a sense of time, but probably part of why he's suspicious is it's like, man, she rebounded like really quickly from that long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Where she turned down a marriage to now super down for marriage.
Yeah.
But
hey, when it's the right guy,
it's not proof of anything.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Walter doesn't get drunk and pull pranks. He's a respectable man.
You're saying he's not cool.
Well, the word I was going to say is he's safe, but yeah, that works.
Responsible.
He's lame, is what you're saying.
Yeah, also, too, like, it's weird to see the Utopian, like, smoking, just because, like, my first introduction...
God, everybody smokes all the time in this book.
No.
They're all constantly smoking.
Let me finish. It's like, but first introduction to him was the TV show. And so in the TV show, like, him modern day would not, I don't think, be all up for smoking.
Yeah, I mean, smoking cigarettes is definitely seen as passé, I think, at this point. And vaping is only for younger people. So, you know, it's kind of that. There would be no space for it. And middle-aged guy who's actually hundreds of years old.
Right, yeah.
To be smoking. But anyway, yeah, I agree. Lots of people smoking. I think that was to further hammer home that this is the mid 20th century.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Kentucky.
Yeah, that could be.
Oh, sorry. I think that there's some latency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm noticing a little bit of that. But, yeah, it's just like, all the smoking reminds me of, like, old movies where in a dialogue scene, they'd have characters smoking so that there would be some, like, motion in the frame. But then, like, it's a still image that we're looking at, so we don't need everybody to be smoking all the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Maybe it's trying to imply that, like the utopian in particular also has some, some problems in his life that he's dealing with, that he needs, like, where Sky Fox needed alcohol, he needs nicotine.
I don't know. If a harsh Nick dependency is the worst he gets, he's still doing pretty well.
I will say, I feel like that's reading into it too much.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But yeah.
Oh, also too, so like Sky Fox notices like a crime in progress, and I can't tell if he decides not to interfere.
Definitely. That's what I pulled from that scene, was that he's like, yep, it's probably an armed robbery, and then he's like, well, yep, these things happen. I can't do anything about it.
Gotcha.
Basic, very what is that? Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotcha.
I almost said 3, but it's 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, was there anything? Okay, so I will say, so about the art, like, it's okay. It's not generally in the style that I think is great, but like I have very few things to say against it. I just noticed that sometimes the eyes were a lot less detailed than they are in other panels. So I was like, that's weird.
Yeah. I'll say that, like, so sometimes the coloring works for me, and other times I'm all like, well, yeah, I think that, actually, here's what it is. The coloring is good. It does work throughout the book, I'm pretty sure. But the inking, there isn't a lot of texture in this book. So things sometimes look flat, and then sometimes, they're not flat, like, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's good. Like, look at this shot with the Utopian and Sky Fox in the sky, and there's a plane in the background, clouds in the background, stars in the sky, and his Sky Fox's cape. It all looks good, Details on the face, little wrinkles and stuff. But then other times it's all like flat face. You can't see any definition on this person's face. It's like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that the inking for me,
like Talon said, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's not particularly, it serves its purpose, but I don't think if this were in black and white, I think there would be even less distinction between all the characters, because part of the distinction between the Union is like they all pretty much wear different colors. Like the actual like design differences from like uniform to uniform aren't that spectacular.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Especially, I think I noticed that with like Lady Liberty, the Union, and Sky Fox, in terms of costume design being very similar.
Yeah. Go into that chapter 5 cover to see them all costumed next to each other. But yeah, I think I'm pretty likely to agree with you there. Yeah. Basically, 2 of them have helmets, and then one has that kind of like full face mask except for the mouth, and then one of them has eye mask, and then Utopian and Lady Liberty are obviously distinguished by being a man and a woman, but otherwise, they've got the capes and the no mask. Which, yeah, why do any of them feel like they need to hide their identity or not hide their identity? I guess Utopian probably has the Superman thing where he is hiding his identity. It's just doesn't feel like he needs a mask. Okay, yeah. Anyway, though, yeah, the art is serviceable. Yeah, I agree. Just not a favorite.
I wonder why they didn't decide to go into the Utopian Lady Liberty, or I mean, I guess they went into Walter a little bit, like in terms of like developing his character, right? You know, helping us get a sense of who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
But like they didn't do that for. They did that a lot more for the Flare, Blue Bolt, and Skyfox. And I wonder why they decided to do that. Because they could have done like one issue for each character.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I thought they were gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, okay, I see how this is setting it up. And then there are like 2 issues for every character. And also, the last story is actually going to have 2 characters in it, sharing the kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that the last arc was supposed to focus on Skyfox. So, you know, in another volume, I would expect that we would get more information about whether Walter really did psychically influence Sunny.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you know, into his personality. So yeah, that's basically what I think is that this volume does half the team, and they're dedicating 2 issues to each person.
Gotcha.
And probably ending with Utopian.
Okay. Gotcha.
The biggest and the baddest.
Yeah, that does make sense. Another reason could just be like to kind of heighten what I was talking about earlier a bit, where it's like it's really easy for the Utopian to lecture because his life seems perfect, and so to kind of further that, it makes sense for like for you to see everybody else's problems before you see whatever he's dealing with, if he's dealing with anything. He could just like not. He could actually be perfect. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that as far as building him up to be like Superman, they're doing a pretty good job in this book, you know. Invincible and Irredeemable, there we go. Both like pretty much like, you know, they're like he has his powers, but it's like that's not Superman though. You know, you can plainly see that's not Superman.
Yeah.
In the way that he, you know, those characters hold themselves, basically. And I assume that that's the way they would be for the boys. I haven't watched the show or read the comics. But yeah, this one, it's like Utopian feels like he's Superman to me.
Oh, gotcha.
Although I'm prepared if I were to read more of this for that to switch off, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I only have the knowledge of TV show in terms of like the Utopian, and so there are elements of him being, you know, like Superman and him having ideals, but I will say like he does have struggles, but it definitely feels more like he's like, no, I'm above them, or I have to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like so, like I looked. So at the end, they have like other issues, and
or other volumes.
Yeah, volumes. Sorry. And so volume 3 has 2 kids on it, and like so at least these characters look very similar to the Utopian's children in the TV show. So I'm going out on a limb saying these are his kids, which I will say they casted really good. If just on the looks part, they cast really well for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it does seem like I'm getting more and more the idea that this is probably going to skip up to the present, you know, by decades, because yeah, it looks like Volume 4 also has the kid of like probably Skyfox and
William Dafoe.
No. Yeah.
He looks like a blonde Willem Dafoe to me.
A little bit. I can see the resemblance, but yeah. No, yeah. It does look like they're gonna introduce the children and stuff and all of that.
He is holding the power rod, so this
maybe that's
this
well,
could I don't think it's Blue Bolt, but it could be. I can't say. I don't think it's Blue Bolt, but it could be Skyfox's son, because in the show, his son wields the power rod. I don't know how that happened, but they didn't go into that.
Anyway, also, what looking at these covers too, what a bait and switch, because Volume 1 has Utopian and Lady Liberty, who are not heavily featured in this book, but Volume 2 has the Flare, Blue Bolt, Skyfox, and Walter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's like the exact opposite of the characters who are featured in their respective books. Yeah, just kind of strange to me. Also, another thing that I was going to say, what do you guys think about the title of this book, Jupiter's Legacy? You know, like...
I think it's too close to Jupiter Ascending, and I made that mistake multiple times in my head.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, it's definitely like the most obvious thing is like trying to like make the allusion to like essentially demigods, you know, Jupiter, the Roman god, Zeus analog for Greek gods, and like, you know, so that god's legacy literal, you know, the children that comes out, or that comes out like
I will say, like, I lean more on the legacy part of it. And so, like, I think this first volume kind of like frames the stories in this is their stories, like, you know, these were the first superheroes or whatever, you know. And so, but since we focus so much on the past, it's hard to see that legacy part.
Right, yeah.
But that's where I think the TV show really focused on, was the legacy.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that I can kind of see that now, why they made that decision. You know, I thought when you were saying that they did it in the present, I just thought, you know, because that is what kind of they do now for when the, you know, now they're starting to like adapt more and more comic book properties, and it's all like, oh, well, Sandman's in the present, and you know, like I can't even think of another example, but Watchmen is in the present, you know. I just thought they were like making it in the present for the sake of the audience, you know. And I mean, like, you know, it's not like that's a new idea either, you know. It's like X-Men is in the present because it would be weird if it was in the 1960s, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oddly enough, actually, that is the one franchise that does do they were actually in the past.
Yeah.
So actually
it was set in the 1960s.
Anyway, though, not the first X-Men movies, just the later ones. Anyway, though. Yeah. So, yeah, the book, there's definitely, you know, this always happens to me, actually, with these books, I feel like, is I'm like, I kind of liked that. And then, like, come on the show, and I'm like, you guys are right. Then, or the reverse, I'm like, I didn't like this book. I'm like, okay, I see the positives. So yeah, it's very middle of the road basically for me, though. There are some parts that just like either don't make sense or you know, it's poorly written.
Yeah.
But generally it's not annoying to read, I guess is what I'll say.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, it goes down easy. I was able to read it in one morning. But that's all I've got for it.
On the spectrum of like superhero deconstructions, like it does feel a lot like Watchmen without like any edge at all. It's just like, what like is the purpose of this like superhero deconstruction, considering this came out in 2013, and so by that point we had like Watchmen 30 years before then, Invincible 9 years before then, we had The Boys also like 10 years before then. So like, what does this superhero deconstruction have that the other ones don't?
Yeah,
Like, what makes this one special?
that's a good point, actually, because I forgot that I had wanted to ask, essentially what you're asking right now, like, what is this? Because I think that maybe we have disagreement on this fact, but to me, all superhero deconstructions are about deconstructing power, power in a society, basically. And so I'm like, this one focuses all about romantic relationships, essentially. Is that true?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm like, but how do romantic relationships play an aspect in societal power? Like, I mean, there's the obvious ways that like are pretty like explicit in the book, with Blue Bolt. It's all like, being gay or otherwise, LGBTQ plus, it's like that will come with some difficulties in being in power. But like other than that, it's like I don't know. It just felt like what if superhero? Or it felt like Mark Millar was like, I think if superheroes were around, they'd be celebrities, and there'd be equal drama of who they're dating and what that means for them and how they feel about that. It didn't really feel like they were making a greater statement about power and relationships and power to me.
There is something I saw. I think this is probably the most succinct way of saying it. At the very last page of this edition, it says, "Even your heroes are only human," and that's probably the only thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sure. It basically brings them more down to earth and makes them like people, like but it still feels like celebrity though, to say like celebrities are people too,
But see, to me, I find it interesting that they say like even your heroes are only human, but when they do that, it's very often like the worst parts of humanity.
Right. Yeah, I would say that too, because it's like basically it seems like that line is excusing their bad behavior. We were all like 50% of these people seem really bad.
Yeah.
And it's like so you're saying that, they're human though. It's okay that they're bad. And it's like, well, no.
Nope.
I mean, they're being bad.
Yeah.
Like, and also they're at times at the very least putting people in danger, if not outright doing something illegal. Like obviously excluding Blue Bolt, where it's like what is illegal should not be illegal. Yeah, it's like like for instance, like when I saw the flare, like he was like, yeah, I'm a little drunk, so like don't move too much. I'm like, that's dangerous. Don't drunk fly.
I did not. Yeah. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So but yeah, I don't know if you have or if either of you have any other ideas about like how this kind of talks about power in the world in an interesting way. But yeah, like I mean, even like bringing in J. Edgar Hoover, so he like basically he's representing the United States and kind of the worst parts of the United States in some ways, and like it's like they just stick to their ideals of being independent and being a group of friends, and it's like, well, that almost doesn't even feel like a deconstruction. This almost feels like what the Justice League would actually do,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think part of this is like, maybe this is not Mark Millar's intention, but like reading this, it gave the impression of somebody who thought they were doing something like groundbreaking, but it's like, and if it was like old, I could like kind of like make that seem right in my head. Where it's like, yeah, maybe this doesn't seem groundbreaking now, but like at the time, it had a lot of new ideas and new concepts. But like, this came out in 2013.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not like, it's kind of old. It's nearing on a decade, technically. That's bad to think about. Well, but, like, these ideas feel like they should have, like, these would have been new, like, 20 or 30 years ago in comics, not, almost 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't realize that this came out in 2013 until you said something about it. I thought that this was 2003, maybe 2007.
Yeah, because I will say, like, that the art doesn't make it feel new to me.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it is trying to, like, convey that sense of, like, 1950s, 1960s.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah, I still agree that the style, doesn't make it feel very modern at times. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe what it is, Jake, is that, like, when you get to a certain pedigree, or maybe that's not quite the right word, but a certain notoriety in the comics industry, you just feel like you have to make a deconstruction work. It's like,
maybe maybe that's the rite of passage. It's like, you got to come up with something.
Yeah.
And it's got to have a bunch of not DC characters in it. So good luck.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's like, also, it feels like, okay, so technically I'm not super familiar, like, truly with Mark Millar's work. I haven't read a lot of it, but it doesn't feel like what he's known for. Or am I thinking of a different writer? I feel like I get him mixed up with somebody else, and now I'm like, what if I'm thinking of the wrong guy? Is this who wrote the issues of Ultimate Fantastic Four? Not the ones that we read, but the ones for Marvel Zombies.
I think that was Mark. That might have been Mark Millar.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. So
it was Mark Millar.
Okay, so yeah, we are surprisingly reading 2 in a row. Although he wasn't the main writer for Marvel Zombies, just a couple of issues. But okay. Yeah, so yeah, just not the kind of style that I expect from him. But maybe I don't know him as well as I think I do.
Well, also, so think about this. He was the writer for Kick-Ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, and that's what I mean. I feel like Kick-Ass was, like, more, honestly, I think that probably worked better as a deconstruction of superheroes than this did, actually.
Okay.
Even if it went more of a vigilante angle, I don't think that anybody really had superpowers in that book.
True.
So maybe it's a deconstruction of vigilantism in comic books.
Gotcha.
But I think that worked better. Man, is that just?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, is that just? Maybe that's Mark Millar's whole bit. Is that, like, he has a secret agent superhero brand, he has a vigilante brand, and he has a superhero brand.
Oh yeah, because he did. He did Kingsman, Ultimates. Apparently, Marvel Knights, Spider-Man, Ultimate Fantastic Four. He was the main writer on Civil War, apparently.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well.
Yeah, I don't know. He technically has, like, a long and storied career, but, like, I don't think he's not. Maybe it's because he's still alive and, like, he's still producing stuff, but he's not somebody that you think of immediately when you think of, like, big comic book names. I don't think.
Yeah.
And that's not supposed to be a dig on Mark Millar. I do think some of the stuff he makes is good, but some of it maybe I just don't like.
Yeah.
Not going to call it not good.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just not within your particular taste or mine.
Yeah. So I would definitely not say this is a recommend. And I'm not really interested in reading more volumes.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm definitely, if the TV show was still going on, I would definitely say watch that. I guess I could still say watch the first season.
Yeah, just with the...
I mean, they're still... Apparently they're making a prequel series that will focus on the villains. But, like, that must be based more on the show, because based on this alone, I don't know what that show would be about.
Well, no,
Maybe
I
that
thought,
weird prison that they introduced at the very end.
I think Super Crooks is a comic.
Oh.
Wait, not Super Cookies.
Yeah, I mean, it must have come out after the first volume, I would assume, then.
Oh, it actually has an anime as well.
Oh, wow. Super Crooks, the anime.
Yeah, so it is a comic and an anime.
And it's still related to Mark Millar's work on Jupiter's Legacy? It's all related?
I think it's set in the same world, but I don't know how much they cross over.
Huh. I feel like that had to be some sort of weird, like, business deal that Mark Millar set up, where it was all like, yeah, you can have a comic book and an anime, in my little universe I have.
Mm-hmm.
The Miller world, as it's titled. But that just seems like so strange.
Really?
I don't know. Looking at the Wikipedia page, apparently Netflix just bought Millar World, which is like the whole publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
So
that
I guess because
they bought.
I was thinking about it earlier.
Oh, you go.
I was thinking, like, is Mark Millar the most, at least not one of the most, like, adapted comics writers?
I mean, he's up there. He's certainly up there.
I mean, if we're excluding,
like even
DC
counting
comics in general,
loose adaptations. Like, even, like, loose adaptations for, like, Logan and Civil War were both technically adaptations of Mark Millar's work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
it's a good point.
I mean, nobody's collated the data for at least a quick Google search, but it seems like everything that's getting made nowadays is, like, somehow related to Mark Millar. Somehow.
Yeah. I guess, basically I would say with the caveat of, like, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, the news that I found was that Super Crooks was supposed to be, at least the Netflix adaptation, was supposed to be set in the same world as Jupiter's Legacy. But just not sure on how much those would cross over.
Yeah.
But and the comic, it says it was a 2012 issue, or 2012 4-issue comic series, which is interesting.
Yeah, so maybe it came out first. Let's see, and that's kind of what I was trying to imply earlier, was that I know that Kick-Ass and Kingsman take place in the same universe, even.
Oh, really?
So maybe Jupiter's Legacy and Super Crooks and the other two are all in the same universe. But that seems like it takes the fire out of Kick-Ass, but I don't know.
I could see more like Kingsman and Super Crooks and Jupiter's Legacy being in the same world. But if Kingsman and Kick-Ass are in the same world, then those two, to me, are automatically not going to be a part of Super Crooks and Jupiter's Legacy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
That is something that I wonder what you think about this. In terms of, like, being the first volume of a comic, like, I feel like it assumes that we know more about this series. Or about these characters. Because of the various, like, information deficiencies that it has. In terms of these characters' superhero names, in terms of their, like, some of their backstories and their superpowers.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was partially an intentional decision, but not in the way that I think you're thinking of it. I think that the intention was to maybe make them feel or the universe feel lived in, and like, you know, already like we're jumping into these people who even have a little bit more of a back history, but we're jumping in here, you know, because this is the story that I want to showcase.
Gotcha.
But you know, this could be its own comic universe that spans, you know, just like the Marvel or DC universes, you know, but we're just stopping right here, right now, you know.
Okay.
And technically, since they start in the 1950s, it's like there's 20 years of history if it was, or maybe no, more like 10 to 15 years of history, you know, if we're keeping in dates with, like, you know, when Superman got published, essentially. 1939.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that was the intention of, like, making them a little vague, was it was like, yeah, you know, people know about this, you know, but not really. I don't think that they were, like, actually meaning for you to know these characters.
Okay.
Full.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like picking up like the Fantastic Four at like issue 7, where it's like been long enough that they don't have to like give you the origin story again, but you still don't know what everybody's powers are, and it's especially weird in this case because there are like shared powers that everybody has. Everybody can fly. Everybody's kind of tough and stronger.
Yeah.
But then like some of us are psychic. Some of us have a drinking problem. Some of us are, like, super strong, I guess? Like, I don't know what the Utopians deal is.
Yeah, and, you know, that's a thing.
Some of us have a power rod.
That's the thing, too, is that, like, you know, it's funny that you bring up the Fantastic Four, because they have such visual powers, you know? It's like, the Thing is the Thing, the Human Torch catches on fire, Invisible Woman is invisible, and then Mr. Fantastic stretches. You just have to watch them use their powers, and you're like, oh, yep, that's their powers, you know? These people, it's like very invisible powers, except for not invisibility.
Yeah.
Unless there's a secret 7th member who doesn't talk.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so... yeah, I think that is definitely a fault of this book and the way that they do powers. But yeah, I think that's all we got for this episode.
I still want to talk a little bit more about the Netflix stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Jupiter's Legacy was released May 7th. And it consists of 8 episodes. And so then, like, less than a month later, so, like, this week, it was announced that they're canceling it. And so...
wow, didn't even make it a month, huh?
No.
That's,
But what was even weirder is that like, audience ratings were pretty high on the show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but the critics probably were not as, like, enthusiastic about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I just find it interesting that in 2019 they're talking they made the or they announced the Super Crooks anime, and then a short 2 years later they're going to make a live action adaptation, and that's what they're replacing Jupiter's Legacy with. So I'm just like, I don't know why you would do that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that Netflix has some, like, big brain data scientists, you know, and they're all like, well, these are the numbers for the first week, and also we know what the weather is going to be in June, and so
that could be it, yeah.
thereby we must cancel this and replace it with something that audiences are going to like even better.
Yeah.
Also coinciding with the next presidential election, of course.
I will say, like, for me, I looked into more of, like, people's reasoning on why Netflix canceled the show.
probably better than my reasoning. I
Eh,
will
yeah.
say.
Well, probably better than my reasoning too, I think. But they were basically just saying, maybe the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, kind of thing. Because I don't know. The number I saw was like 200 million put into this TV show. I don't know if
Ooh, yeah. I don't think it was worth that, based on what I've heard.
I don't know if that's real, but that's what I saw.
Okay, I mean, I would expect that the article would have real numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that is quite a lot. I will say. But my more like cynical view was just that the optics of the TV show were not as progressive as they wanted it. That's my view on it. Because, the majority of the cast were white.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the difference between the show and the comic in terms of talking about Richard and his sexuality, like, just making it subtext.
Yeah.
Like, that was... I'm shocked that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was I... And then the show was very much like focusing on like ideals that perhaps are like have a bad connotation.
Yeah, or might be considered antiquated.
Yeah. Although but I will give the show credit. They talked about that they are antiquated.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I would have liked to see more of the show, but also I would have liked to see more of Josh Duhamel. So
yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but yeah, I agree with you that I think that it was just the numbers, and that's kind of what I was getting at with my joke answer.
Yeah, 200 million is what they're throwing around, and boy, if it was 200 million is the quoted number. So if that's true, that's way too much.
Yeah,
because like I looked it up for The Boys, which is another streaming superhero deconstruction, that only cost 10 million an episode.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wait, so
definitely was not.
So was it like? I guess 10 episodes would still. It'd have to be 20 episodes before it could match that price tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. Oh man.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah. Also, yeah. My brain doesn't always like really conceptualize numbers, unless I really force it to. And so, like, for one, I thought that you were talking about people, and then for two, my brain just now conceptualized that 200,000 people would actually be kind of a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
But,
no, $200 million.
Or 200 million. That's what I meant too. I also didn't even say the right number. 3. But yeah, that would be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Watching. But yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that makes even more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and apparently Falcon and Winter Soldier cost upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars. Also for 8 episodes. So, well, that's what Anthony Mackie said, is hundreds of millions.
Okay.
So,
all right. No offense to Anthony Mackie, but I'm not going to trust that.
Well, I'd maybe say at least 100,000.
Oh, God.
100
million.
I would say, more than 100 million. Probably less than 300. Somewhere between there.
Okay, gotcha.
But, like...
Also, it's Disney,
I don't know,
and not Netflix.
They got money to throw around, for sure. But...
I mean, so does Netflix. Netflix is big. Like, I mean, I understand maybe they're not Disney big, but they're big.
Yeah.
That's true. They're still big, but they got to be a little smarter on what they... on what they keep and what they, throw away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that was worthwhile to talk about. Mm-hmm. But now I think that's all that we have for our show. So, this has been the Comic Panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Taylon.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. You can catch us Mondays, 5 to 7 p.m. on KSUA 91.5 FM, The People's Radio. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Comic Panel, It's Comic Time. Follow us on Instagram at _comic_panel, like our Facebook page at It's Comic Time. You can also listen to us in podcast form on Apple Music, Spotify, and Podbean at The Comic Panel Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.